Hi, I'm Dr. Ben Newman. I'm a coronavirus researcher. Nice to meet you. Let's see. Next question for today is from MK. How are you doing? All right. Let's see. So here goes. Between Operation Warp Speed and the EUAs being issued, which are emergency use authorizations, that's what all the COVID pills and things have, but some of the vaccines are actually fully approved. Being issued, these seem to be coming quite rapidly. I am wondering, when a new product applies for FDA full approval, how long is the normal or average amount of time that elapses from application to approval? Interesting question. Not sure. All right. Not talking about EUA, talking about normal full approval. Yeah. Let's look. So the FDA actually keeps track of this at fda.gov/media/150966/download. That's a list of all their approvals this year. I think these are only medicines, so vaccines would not be on there. But the COVID vaccine was approved in really quick time. So there's actually a separate process which is called fast track approval, which is faster or intended to be faster than the original. On this particular list that I'm looking at, there are 20 approvals so far in as of June 2021, which is the last update. And none of them is for COVID on this particular list. I think there may be a separate list for the vaccine panel. Or vaccines may not be available for fast track approval. The idea behind fast track is that if there's a way that, like, if you're giving something to prevent cancer, you may have to follow a person for the next 50 years to figure out whether they ever got cancer in their life. That would take a while. Yeah. But if you have something that would have a quick turnaround time, or where you can spot something early, like a really early sign that this is working or not working, and that's going to be a reliable sign, so you'd have to have years of research to back that up, then theoretically you can be eligible for this. So looking at the list, I pulled it up just a minute ago, and there were two that jumped out at me. One is the most recent one, which is from Merck. Yeah, there you go. And it is a thing called Vercuvo, which is Vericiguat. I don't know. Marketing team at Merck, give me something better than that. Anyway, it's a thing to reduce the risk of cardiovascular death and heart failure after you've already had some kind of heart failure. So that seems like a useful thing. And it was fast-tracked approved. So looking at that one, you can actually go to another site, which is called clinicaltrials.gov, and you can actually find any clinical trial that is out there. And sure enough, here is the clinical trial, and it first posted, like they said that they got approval and were going to be looking for people. So it was first made public in August 2016. And the last update was November 15th, 2020, which is earlier this week. And the first results were posted on June 29th, 2020. So you've got about... See, the slow part is always the clinical trial part, getting enough people in enough places, getting enough funding secured for that. That's the part that's variable and can take really a long time. Now, the decision-making process, it looks as though from results to approval is about a year to a year and a half, and that seems reasonable to possibly excessive. Like if the data are in and the data are complete, the first data may not have been like everything that they wanted. It may have just been a few people or an early thing. And you got to wait until the test is done. But once you have the data in hand, there are only so many questions you can ask. And a well-designed study will actually answer those questions before you can ask them. And so really, it should take as long as it takes for all the people to read it and then meet and discuss it. And then, sit back a minute and just say blue sky. All right, what could go wrong here? have they done a good enough job to check whether this might go wrong at some future point? Because you don't want to put something out there and then have to pull it back. Yeah. Even if it's helping people in the interim, it looks bad overall. A little over a year. Now, on the other side, there is also one on the list from Sarepta, which is a company that I worked with back in the day. I got, my first paper with them was like in '04, and they were called a completely different name back then. We were looking at antivirals against a coronavirus, and they had a way of doing that. And yeah, they were okay. They were hard to get into cells. There was no way you could get them into a person. But proof of concept, it showed that a thing can work. And they went on to be useful scientific tools. Never really studied fully as a possible human therapeutic, but I think there are maybe enough problems there that I don't know whether it would have worked, but yeah. And we went on to do tests through mice and things like that. Anyway, theirs is for Duchenne muscular dystrophy, or maybe they say Duchenne, I forget. And their treatment did get approved this year, which is very nice. And I know that was already a thing back when I was working with them we actually started, I believe, in '03. And that was already their lead compound at the time. So if you're talking in terms of total research with the product not really changing, but taking it all the steps through development, up through clinical trials, up through improvement, that's about 20 years. Yeah. And that's probably going to be on the long end. They did get their approval in February, it looks like, of 2021. So, hey, congrats. That's fine. I don't own any stock, so yeah, that doesn't do a thing to me, positive or negative. Yeah. So, yeah, the answer is very unsatisfying. It varies. The actual approval process has to wait for all the data to come in, and collecting the data and getting approval and set up and patients and doctors and hospitals and your tests all in a row and getting giant many page report documents written up and all the pre-approvals written and everything else. That's the big time sink. And yeah, there could be ways, if you're ever in a situation, or if we're ever in a situation again where there is a rampant problem that's everywhere, that's serious enough and has enough funding behind it that you can basically dream up a clinical trial, use fairly proven but slightly tweaked technology, I would expect we can actually go a little faster than has been done in the current one. Just because once you get the results, once you've done the clinical trial, it doesn't take that long to read a paper. Yeah, I don't know how long it takes you, but yeah, they make newspapers this thick, and you're supposed to get through that in a day. Yeah, good luck to you, right? But yeah, it's more about scheduling and finding a time when everybody can meet. Are you free next Tuesday? Oh, no, I'm going to be out of town visiting my mother. Oh, well, let's try Wednesday. No, let's try Thursday, etc. So, yeah. I don't think there's anything particularly special about any of these in terms of the approval process, but yeah, it happens a lot more often than you think. There's a special fast track process. It's there for a reason, and generally it seems to work. I bet none out of these 20 things are treatments or drugs that you have necessarily ever heard of, and yeah, they're all approved now, so they're there if you need them. And I think that's important because, yeah, you can be careful, but to be fully, ultimately careful, it would literally take forever and nothing would ever get approved. And at some point, yeah, that's where the expert judgment comes in. What's good enough? What looks reasonable? What seems like, you know what? Yeah, it seems like we got a good shot. Let's go for it. Some point you got to do that. Yeah, there's this little YOLO point in every approval process, and yeah, that's just people, decision making, the way stuff works. So there you go. Good question. Interesting. I enjoyed reading about that. It was not something I knew a lot about before, and hope that helps. Thanks very much. This has been Ask Dr. Ben.